Hi guys, welcome back to Nyx Reads. Thank you so much for watching. If you like bookish content, then please feel free to subscribe. And if you like the format of this video, then leave it a like if you want so that I know you have enjoyed it. Today, I wanted to talk about my May wrap up. And it has been kind of a busy month. So I finished 6 books, which compared to my other months, it's a bit less than usual, but I'm still happy with the amount that I read. How about we start with some May story graph facts? I'll have my profile in my description so you can add me as a friend if you want. So out of the 6 books, my most read moods were emotional, adventurous, and tense. I read mostly medium pace books. Most books that I read are under 500 pages. Oh, and I read 100% fiction this month. I did start a nonfiction, but I didn't finish it, so that's gonna be part of my June wrap up. My most read genre is contemporary. My format is divided 50-50 this time, so half I actually read as a physical book, and the other half I listened to as audio, which I learned to love this year. And my average rating was 3.5 stars. Don't forget to share some of your stats with me. Definitely let me know which one was your favorite book that you read in May. So let's get into it. I'm gonna start with the 2 books that were part of my spring TBR challenge. So just a list of books that I wanted to read during spring. So I'm gonna start on a high note actually. I read The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. Oh my goodness. What a ride. I think I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars and I rounded it up to 5 on Goodreads. It's not 100% perfect, yet I loved it so much. I kid you not, The Song of Achilles is probably one of the best love stories I've read. So this is a Greek mythology retelling, if I'm not mistaken, from the Iliad by Homer. We follow a very young Patroclus who is exiled from his home, from his father who's a king, into the court of where Achilles is growing up. That is where the 2 young boys meet and they train together and they start to form a connection, and it goes from there. It's very fascinating how the author takes well-known characters that you know from these mythologies, like the Greek gods like Zeus, figures like Odysseus, and places them within the story in the context of war and political intrigue and what it means to be a half-god or what it means to serve deities. I'm making it sound like a history text that you have to read in school, but this is the exact opposite of that, I swear. It is incredibly gripping, so emotional. It just for some reason worked for me. I don't know what it was, but just even reading the first few pages, I was hooked. It's really stood out for me. I can't even put my finger on what it was, but just the way that she wrote, so like the prose. It's also very much a coming of age story. Boy, I was so invested in the 2 main characters and their relationship. I was in tears by the end of the book. How the story is told from the main character's point of view, it doesn't just portray this relationship in step 1, having a crush, step 2, falling in love, and then 3 is being together, like wanting to be together forever in that kind of way. It shows all the nuances in between. So it's everything from early infatuation of the feeling of having a crush on somebody, but also just admiring somebody and thinking not just I want to be with them, but maybe I want to be them. Jealousy, lust, a deeper connection, frustrations over the kind of decisions that, you know, your partner makes. It's so multifaceted. Next, from my spring TBR, I read Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. This was kind of a miss for me. I'm very disappointed to say. So this is a sci-fi novel. How do I explain the story without giving anything away? So basically there's a man, I already forgot his name. Jason. So Jason one day is kidnapped, knocked unconscious. He wakes up and is suddenly in a different world from what he remembers. His wife's not there, his kid's not there, his home is not his home. I liked the sci-fi element of this and how this mystery played out. So what it was in the end, but I didn't like the execution. This book is kind of how I imagine, I'm saying imagine, a little caveat here because I've never read him, but this is how I imagine how a John Grisham novel or James Patterson, is that his name? James Patterson novel would read like. The writing itself, it threw me off. So what really didn't work for me in this was the parts that were meant to be emotional and pull you into the character and make them root for the main character, because the way that Jason is trying to find his wife Daniela, the way we look at Daniela from Jason's point of view is kind of the vibes of a frat boy at a bar with his friends describing a hot waitress that is walking by. I perceived it as very superficial, like he was talking about the idea of having a hot wife, but not actually the person that's behind Daniela. The parts where it was very action-packed, where we get into the sci-fi parts, like the sciencey stuff, so that was good. But I was not connecting to the character at all. It is suspenseful, you know. I wanted to keep reading. I kept turning the page, so it is very, very fast paced. So if you're looking for something like that, then this could be it for you. On a completely different note, genre-wise, I read The Secret Life of Church Ladies by Disha Filion. I listened to it, and if you've watched some of my videos, you know that I had yet to meet a short story collection that I genuinely liked, but this completely changed my mind. This is, to date, the best short story collection that I have ever read. All of these stories circle around the Black community, more specifically church-going Black community. The short stories have different forms, they're different lanes, but I'm telling you, every single story packs a punch. There was no story in there that I wanted to be over just to get to the next one. I was incredibly interested in every single short story. I was blown away. It was great stories. The only reason why I gave it, I think, 4.5 out of 5 and not 5 out of 5 is because there was one theme in there that I think was picked up in almost every story. It was always present, and I think I would have liked a bit more diversity in the themes. These stories talk about marriage, love, kids, your devotion, community. There's just a bit of everything in there. It's great. I don't know what else to say. I really recommend this book to everybody. Then I listened to The Switch by Beth O'Leary. This book is packed with my favorite rom-com tropes. So we have Lena Cotton, who's, you know, your super motivated big city girl who works like 90 hours a week. So that's trope number one. And then she does a switcheroo with her grandma, so that's another trope that I like. So they switch lives. So her grandma, who lives in the countryside in a nice cottage, switches lives with Lena, so she moves into the big city while Lena moves to the countryside where she grew up. Her grandma, on the other hand, is moving to the big city to go and meet someone to date. So that's another trope that I like. Elderly people finding new love. In the meantime, Lena gets to know her grandma's friends, neighbors, community, and she starts to immerse herself into like community work and that kind of stuff. So there's another trope for you. And then obviously there's the asshole boyfriend in there, you know, who's from the big city. So it was just a bunch of trope candy, but it worked for me. I think did I give it 4 out of 5 stars? Yeah, I did. It was just so enjoyable. It was so endearing. I didn't give it 5 stars because there was a heavy plot line in there where I kind of felt like, really, do you have to use that kind of stuff as your instrument to, you know, explain Lena's and her grandma's life story and why they are where they are at the moment? Also read 9 Perfect Strangers by Liane Moriarty. I read quite a few books from this author now. I think I'm gonna try to read everything that's unpublished and then rank them for you, because this is kind of an author I always go back to. I heard from quite a few people who also read a lot of Moriarty that this is one of her worst works. But I was pleasantly surprised, actually. I get it. I get why people would dislike this book, but I thought in the end it kind of worked out for me. The premise is pretty easy. We have 9 strangers who go into this extremely exclusive spa retreat for a few days. They all bring different sets of problems with them, and it all kind of just comes out. This retreat is what I imagine a goop retreat would be. Pretty much all of the visitors, they're not great people. You're meant to dislike them. What I'm not so sure about is if they are caricatures of stereotypes on purpose or not. I think what made this book feel imbalanced is that it went into a crazy direction, but then it kind of pulled back. I think it should have either stayed on a bit more leisurely pace, leisurely content, or have gone batshit crazy like all the way, but it was kind of in the middle. I was okay with this book. I enjoyed it fine. I thought it was a good experience, and I also watched the show. I thought they did a good job doing the adaptation on it. I like the soundtrack. And lastly, I read Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson, and I went into this book fully expecting this will be at least 4 if not 5 stars for me. Probably gonna be a new fantasy favorite, which I've been craving. And I'm so confused because I was disappointed. Before you throw stones at me, I feel like, again, kind of like I felt with Jade City, am I reading the same book as anybody else? Please hear me out. I did really like the magic system in here. It was so unique, something I've never read before. The setup is actually quite simple. We have a Lord Ruler who rules everything, who seems untouchable. He basically enslaves half, or if not more, of the population, which are called the Ska. And then there's one girl who's kind of like has the chosen one vibe. She discovers that she has these Mistborn abilities, so she can ingest metal and in return conjure different powers. The reason why she discovers her powers are because she is sucked in by this group of thieves and schemers who plan to overthrow that Lord Ruler. Also was expecting an adult fantasy, but it turns out that this is YA, isn't it? Because technically the main character is a young adult, so that makes this a YA story. Isn't that what it is? And also the writing style felt very YA, and that's not what I was expecting. So I think that's one of the reasons why I was let down. The author does do a good job in, you know, hinting at mysteries and secrets that I do want to reveal. So it did, you know, make me keep reading. But I think 80% of this book are preparations to do that overthrowing the ruler kind of thing. Then the plan that this group puts together, they're so simple, and they put them together within one sitting that I was really like, I can't even root for this plan because it just seems on the like early stages of a workshop. In other words, the plan was too impossible to care about for me. There is some mysteries in here that were left unresolved that I still have questions about, that I want to know the answer to, and I'm genuinely a bit sad that I didn't like it more. I was really hoping for this to be a 5-star. I heard Stormlight Archives is great, but I just don't want to read through another 2-3 books until I get to something great. You know, I want something great now. So those were the books I read in May, and let me know if you read any of these. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.